Good day to everyone. Welcome back after the short break. Although it was short, I hope you had some time to stretch your legs and also watch the videos. My name is Viktorija Maceikaite, and I'm the technical monitor from the Nordic Baltic ELMEN team. I will be moderating this last session of the event on the mobilization of other sectors for restoration and how these can be upscaled. We will hear 5 speakers from different projects working with nature restoration in Latvia, Austria, the Netherlands, Slovenia, and Sweden. I will invite the speakers to join. Here you can welcome some of the speakers. But now I would like to remind also about the questions. Just as in previous sessions, we will have time for discussion after we hear all 5 presentations. Please use Slido for raising your questions and also sharing comments or knowledge by posting links to the reports, websites, projects. Just remember to be concise because Slido has a character limit. Okay, let's invite our first speaker, Liene Brizga-Kalniņa. Liene is an experienced communication expert with strong focus on environmental and nature communications. She is a leading communicationist at the Latvian Fund for Nature. Working on multiple life projects, Liene today will present experiences of GrassLIFE, the project working in collaboration with landowners, farmers, and scientists on restoring EU priority grasslands and promoting their multiple use. Liene, please.
Yes, hello everyone, and thank you, Viktorija, for introduction. I really appreciate being here and hearing the previous session with all the experiences, and it's very nice to hear that in a way we are all experiencing very similar challenges, and so we can share and gain from each other. So I will be talking about actually 2 projects, Project GrassLIFE, which is already completed, and Project GrassLIFE 2. So Viktorija, can you give me please the next slide? Project GrassLIFE that started in 2017 dealt with restoring EU priority grasslands as the key objective, but also we quite clearly understood that it's not enough to only deal with practical grassland restorations, but it is important to increase and spread knowledge and experience about grassland restoration, and actually to establish a grassland restoration movement in different stakeholder audiences, and something that I call a fan basis. So I will briefly tell you how we did that in GrassLIFE, what we are doing in GrassLIFE 2, which is a succession of the previous project, but with a more practical focus on management practices, but not just amongst farmers. Yes, next slide, please, Viktorija. The first one, so agricultural sector and farmers, something that we heard about in the previous section already a lot, and we are not very different in a way that landowners and farmers really are our main audience and should be the focal point of our activities, and we should be thinking about them, for them, and as them as well. In Latvia, semi-natural grasslands at the moment are in a declining state. We have 0.9% of the territory covered by grasslands, which and it was 30% 100 years ago. So the decline has been dramatical, and it's still going on, and the grasslands are still converted to agricultural use or being abandoned. So this is the main reason of the decline. Also, the grasslands are so scattered around Latvia that they very often are in locations that are physically hard to access for management. It's hard to get in there with machinery, and therefore landowners really lack motivation to manage them. When we go to the solutions, as already almost every project that was covered before stressed, it's crucial to involve landowners. We involve landowners as project partners, so they are all also part of LIFE family. They are not just our contractors or service providers. They are project partners that all bear the life science in their everyday work, and that gives them more requires from them more accountability. Also, they all need to sign the contract and agree on the post-life activities. But we tend to look at them as a family, and we have, since the first project, created this family of about 20 farmers that are now dedicated grassland farmers or nature farmers. And how what we did to strengthen this community is that we provided support for long-term activities on their land that support grasslands. And we provided fences, we provided cattle, we provided technical equipment, machinery that they used for project, and also they used to restore grasslands outside project territories, which they now do. They buy land themselves that where they restore grasslands, and their internal motivation has really developed. And another thing that was important in our experience, we made all decisions regarding grassland restoration, what we do, how we do, when we do, what techniques we use, what methods we apply together. We, as Latvian Fund for Nature, as the practical nature restorers, farmers and scientists from University of Latvia, it involved like physical walks around the territory where the grassland professor gives her view, and the farmer says, no, let's do it this way. And so this really worked. The farmers really have respect towards the scientists, the university professors, and it's mutual. So they are really looking forward to scientists' visits to their farms. And now we have this group, which is a small group, of course, but Latvia also is a quite small country. So we have this group of interested and motivated farmers that continue grassland management after project, not just because it is required by the Afterlife project, but also because they see the potential of that. And
Liene, sorry, you have about less than a minute left. Try to also wrap it up.
Yes. Next slide then, please, is these are partners, just some illustrations. And next slide, we go to the science sector that I already touched upon. So we involved the partners from University of Latvia and University of Tartu to help them to bridge their work with the practical work. And this is the same. They walk around the territories together with farmers, discussing the approaches together with farmers. So science-based methods in the farms, and also contribution to the development of scientific knowledge about grassland restoration in Latvia that is also internationally published. Next slide, please. This is just some illustrations of how farmers and our partners work together with the scientists on monitoring, on getting to know their own grasslands. And the last sector that I wanted to touch upon. Next slide. Yes, the general problem, grasslands were not in the agenda for the public, and in general, there was low awareness of the grassland situation. This is the part where I could do the most talking about, because it's about communication campaigns, but we established cooperations with communication agencies, with outside partners that helped us with communication. And thus we gained wide publicity for the grassland topic. We increased awareness, we increased interest. We made it easier for other grassland related projects that are not in our organization to come to life. And also from some of our campaigns, and other projects developed. For example, we had a small campaign which invited people to plant their own square meters of grasslands in their backyard, that developed in urban grassland movement. And now we have a project where we plant urban grasslands in the city of Riga. So in the next slide, you can see some illustrations for that. And I don't see the timer, but I guess according to the warning, my time should be up.
Yes, indeed, Liene. But thank you very much. It was really interesting to hear experience of your projects, and it was nice how you referred to this established family of farmers, which is again compared to or what we heard in the previous session, Natura communities established in Ireland, and it seems that this is really so interlinked. All the subjects that we touch. Is it land acquisition, or is it access to land, or is it mobilizing other sectors, the RASable experiences? Also, it was interesting to hear about this dialogue established between farmers and scientists. So it seems that it works well. But tell me, you've been implementing two live projects. So how do you think this possibility to continue, this continuity, how did it help to upscale the nature restoration efforts?
One thing is that we have these two GrassLIFE projects, but in a way they have developed into other life projects as well. We have one life project that is aimed at establishing a grassland product label. So this is going to the business sector and going in that direction. And we have a project which is devoted to the urban grasslands. As well, we have a grassland project that is aimed at production of grassland pellets from the grass of from semi-natural grasslands, which is not used otherwise, and creating products from that. So all these projects developed organically, starting when we started to work more with grasslands and with farmers, and taking the ideas that seemed to be the best to go outside our current scope of activities, and we created the project. So as of now, it's from project to project, but of course it's not sustainable in the long term. And we are we think that this grassland restoration movement and establishment of grassland farmers initiative or community is crucial so that the idea continues to live also outside our project.
Thank you, Liene. That's really interesting and promising for grasslands. And now I would like to invite our next speaker, Helena Muehlmann. And let me tell you that Helena works at the Federal Ministry of the Republic of Austria for Agriculture, Forestry, Regions and Water Management. She is the project manager of the integrated LIFE project called IRIS, and the project working with the integrated river solutions in Austria. Today, Helena will share with you experience of the integrated strategic planning and how it leads to successful implementation, restoring rivers and implementing river restoration measures in Austria. Helena, floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Victoria, for the introduction, and thank you as well to the organizers for inviting IRIS to be part of this wonderful event today. I will now take you to the rivers, away from the wonderful terrestrial project we heard about yesterday. I want to put the focus on the aquatic ecosystems. Rivers and freshwater habitats actually are among the most threatened ecosystems on our planet. So river restoration is a really important part in restoring nature as a whole, and it's also reflected in the new nature restoration regulation, where the rivers also play a vital part in terms of what we have to do there. Next slide, please, Victoria. So Victoria already told us that IRIS is an integrated LIFE project, so we have a lot of strategic elements there. We want to achieve a policy impact and also try to upscale our results, at least on our country. We hope maybe even wider. So the overall goal of our project is the strategic coordination and the harmonized implementation of the Water Framework Directive, which demands to achieve good ecological status in all our rivers, together with the Floods Directive, but also considering other water-relevant aspects like nature conservation, Natura 2000 areas, and also other plans and especially uses like hydropower, for example, in our rivers. We're doing this with a new integrative planning approach we have developed. I will tell you about this later. Next slide, please. Why do we need to integrate ecology and flood protection? Formerly, flood protection was always implemented when there was any need to protect people or infrastructure or settlements from rivers and floods, and ecology didn't play a role there. So as a result, we have a lot of very altered rivers with really hard flood protection measures with no functioning habitats left whatsoever. And this is also reflected in the results in the river basin management plan, where more than half of our rivers do not achieve the good ecological status. So this approach has changed a lot today, also thanks to the Water Framework Directive, that we are now focusing more on the multifunctionality of rivers. We try to find nature-based solutions that cover all the different aspects a river needs in terms of flood protection and ecology. And we're doing this by implementing integrated river basin management. Next slide, please. So as I already said, we have developed within the project a new planning tool for this integrated river basin management. It's called GERM. That's short for River Development and Risk Management Concept. And with this planning tool, we develop programs of measures for the whole river. So we want to get away from this local approach of individual measures here and there, and they're not really coordinated with each other, to an interdisciplinary integrative planning process for the entire river and the entire catchment. And in this planning process, we strategically search for synergies in terms of measures, and also we always try to find the best ecological option under the given conditions for the certain river. As already said, also other existing uses and policies and nature conservation and everything that affects the river somehow is also integrated into this planning process. And a very important part is that we integrate stakeholder and also other sectors into the planning process right from the beginning in order to achieve a common understanding of what a river needs, what a river should look like, and what measures need to be implemented to achieve the best results for these rivers. Next slide, please. Thank you. In order to ensure a similar quality in these participation processes, we have developed and published guidelines for the public participation in the GERM planning process. The guidelines gives information on how to plan these processes, which stakeholder, which river user, to involve, at which stage of the planning process. And there are certain different tools for public participation involved there, and also strategies for successful knowledge transfer and awareness raising, which is really the most important thing, that people understand what we want to do and why. So this awareness raising plays a really major part in these participation processes. Next slide, please. So the result of the GAM planning process is a program of measures for the whole rivers, where all the measures that are needed for flood protection and for improving the ecology are laid down for the whole river and the catchment. The upstream and downstream effects of these measures are already integrated and coordinated with each other. And as I said, we always try to find the most ecological measure and option for the river. By involving the stakeholders, we try to achieve a common agreement and a wide acceptance of these results, which is really important for the future planning and for the detailed restoration projects that should be implemented after we have finalized our plans in the future. Next slide, please. So the talk today is about mobilizing other sectors. So we now give you 3 short examples on where we really managed to mobilize other sectors to get involved in river restoration. The first one is the River Enns. It's a very heavily straightened river. You see here is part of the program of measures. You see how many measures we have found that need to be implemented to improve the conditions of these rivers. And in this river stretch, the energy company Verbund has some impact on the river, causing hydro peaking in the river. So they have to do something to reduce the ecological impact. So they could either do a technical solution there or go for a larger nature-based solution. And this is what they luckily did. They took our program of measures and they will implement now a large restoration project on the length of 20 kilometers, where all the measures that we have designed and found in our planning process will be implemented by the hydropower sector, which is a really great and wonderful thing that is starting right now at the moment, actually. Next slide, please. Another example is the River Lafnitz. We found out in our planning process and in the analysis we did that the river suffers from a large proportion of fine sediments. So that leads to a degradation of habitats and especially spawning grounds for fish. So the river has not a good ecological status. So in our program of measures, we recommend that measures need to be implemented in the floodplains to reduce this high erosion from agriculture. So this goes very much into private ownership lands. A large horizon project, an international horizon project is running. It's called Land for Climate, and the Lafnitz area decided to become part of the project. So now the River Lafnitz is a front-running region in this large horizon project, where measures are developed and implemented together with the landowners and the farmers to reduce the fine sediment input into the river. Of course, the measure implementation itself is voluntarily. No farmer can be forced to do anything, but since with the Horizon Project, the financing for these measures is provided. And a lot of groundwork, talking to the people, explaining to them why this needs to be done. We are really optimistic that a lot will happen there and the situation in the Lafnitz will improve. Next slide, please.
You have less than a minute left.
Sorry, the last example very quickly, I'm speeding up, is the wind energy. There is a wind park project planned in Austria, and by building their access roads to this area, they are deteriorating three small rivers. So they have to do a mandatory compensation measures for the damage they're doing to the 3 small rivers. So what this hydropower wind park company did, they took our program of measures and picked one of the measures we have defined there, and they will now implement this as a compensation measure they need to implement for the deterioration they're doing elsewhere. So my final slide, could you go to the next one? So the conclusions we have from our project is that the contributions to other sectors to river restoration are mostly not entirely voluntary. River restoration is very costly. It's a very expensive field of restoration. So when there are voluntary measures, they of course need a full financing or a large proportion of financing. But what often happens is that companies and other sectors have to do compensation measures for some cost deteriorations elsewhere. And here the program of measures we are developing within our project are an excellent source to select appropriate measures. So you just can look at the plan and pick a measure, and it's ensured that this measure is embedded into the whole system and brings the best ecological output for the whole river net and the system. Important for this, of course, is the intersectoral planning and the participation, so that people know that these programs of measures are in place and that are developed, and they also agree with what is in there. And raising awareness and knowledge transfer, of course, is the key to spread the word, to get the information out. And large life, especially the large integrated life projects, they're a very effective trigger to have a high public perception, to make good public relation work, and to make networking meetings to explain to the people what is effective and what the river actually needs. So from our experience, our project really has a large impact, also mobilizing other sectors in the field of river restoration. So that was it. Was it too long? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for listening.
Helena, thank you for presenting. This is really enormous work that you have done. So I understand it's difficult to present just in 8 minutes, but thank you for sharing this experience in development of the planning tool, the GERM tool, right? And it is interesting, though, although you say that not all measures are completely voluntarily, and that can't be right to achieve the result. But yet it's interesting, how did you manage, for example, working with an energy company to convince them that they should choose nature-based solution instead of technical solution?
Yeah, well, that is, especially in Austria with the large hydropower companies, we're in a very good exchange. They acknowledge that they're doing damage to the rivers with using them for energy production. And since many years, it's a tradition also to really have this good exchange with those. And especially the Verbund company is always trying to find good projects they can implement. So the ENS project is not the first one they implemented. So we didn't really have to convince them. We just had to show them, hey, if you want to do something, that's the best thing to do. It's better than to build a technical solution, a compensation reservoir. It would be a lot more ecological impact and a lot more ecological outreach if you do the nature-based solutions. And they went for it, which is really a great thing. So in this case, there was not that much convincing. In other sectors, it's more difficult, and with other companies as well.
Of course. Thank you very much, Helena. Thank you. And now I would like to invite our next speaker, Jef Hendrix. And let me shortly present you, Jef. He works at NATURA.SI. It's an independent volunteer association working with nature protection and restoration in Flanders. Jef is the coordinator of LIFE Nardus Limosa, a project focused on restoring Hesse grasslands and meadow bird populations. Today, Jef will share with us a rather different approach of how empowering volunteers becomes a driving force for nature conservation. Jef, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Viktorija. Hello everyone, I'm Jef. I'm working on the LIFE Nardus Limosa project, in which we empower volunteers for nature conservation. So I was asked to tell you something about how we work with volunteers as a grassroots organization. Next slide, please. So I will first tell you about the volunteer model of NATURA.SI, and then more specifically, volunteers in the LIFE project. Then some challenges of working with volunteers, and finally some recommendations for volunteer engagement. Next slide, please. So first of all, very briefly about NATURA.SI. We are indeed an NGO based in Flanders. We're working on nature, mainly nature management, but also nature education, study, and policy. We're managing about 500 nature areas. And we do that with over 600 employees, but also more than 40,000 volunteers. So we're really a volunteer organization supported by professional staff. Next, please. You can see that in our organization structure. The organization is led by the General Assembly of volunteers. Also, the board consists of volunteers, and we as a staff are there in between the board and the other volunteers, as you can see in this model. Next slide, please. So volunteering in NATURA.SI, it's very diverse. You can do a lot of different things. There is the nature management works. planning of nature goals and nature management methods. Volunteers are guiding tours, volunteers are weighing on nature policy, organizing events, monitoring species education, and a lot more. It's really, really broad. But it's good to know that almost every one of the nature areas has a local team of volunteers responsible for the area. They are called the management team, and this same management teams are involved in the projects in their areas. So next slide, please. In this project, Life Nardus Limosa is a project about grassland restoration. And there is one big nature area of NATURA.SI involved in it with a management team of about 15 volunteers. And this team is also involved in the project in many different ways. For instance, next slide, please. For instance, in decision making. And decision making is a very important thing. The management team makes the decisions about their own nature area. This already starts before the project. They decide which nature goals they want and which management methods to use. They also write the project application with us. And also during the project, they are involved in every decision. I go in the field with the volunteers about every month to discuss how and where we will carry out the restoration actions. They also decide on other things, for instance, how to communicate. And we as a staff are there to support them with extra knowledge, to support them and make sure everything meets the requirements, such as like legislation, project requirements, and so on. But volunteers make the final decisions. And this is a very important part of our volunteer model, because this way we create ownership. And the management teams consider their own nature area as their own area. They have a really strong bond with the area, and that way they are really motivated to do everything they can for this area. Next slide, please. So in the project, volunteers also negotiate with landowners that want to sell their land. There is, of course, professional support, but the volunteers have the best contacts with the locals, and that's a big advantage for using volunteers for this. Next, please. Also, the contacts with the farmers is done by volunteers, because mowing in the project and also outside of the project is done for a big part by local farmers. And the volunteers are the best contacts with the farmers, because again, they know the local people the best. They can also talk to them in their own dialect. And this way, we get the help of about 20 farmers in the project. Next, volunteers also guide visitors through the area to show them our projects. And in this area, there is at least one guided tour a month, and volunteers take turns in guiding these tours to have tours with different focuses, which really makes it interesting. Next, yes, also monitoring of meadow birds is done by volunteers every year. And there's many more other ways to involve volunteers in the project. So next, please. Yes, working with volunteers has, of course, big advantages. It's cost efficient, of course. We work with locals who know the area the best, know local people the best. For instance, visitors, farmers, local government. They visit the area very often, so they really know what's going on there, and they can respond quickly if anything happens. But there is, of course, some challenges of working with volunteers. For instance, there is a change in volunteer profiles. And this is a model that shows the shift in volunteer engagement. It's a shift in personality, motivations, type of volunteer work, etc. And it's something we can see everywhere in society. And I won't explain the whole model, but the most important thing is where traditional volunteers did more long-term engagements and did it mostly out of altruism. Younger volunteers like to get a taste of everything, like to do more short-time volunteer jobs, more project-based, and are more focused on their own development. And these are called the new volunteers in this model. And this change in volunteer profiles, it's not a bad thing in itself, but it's a major challenge for us because the organization is built on the traditional volunteer type. So we will have to change our way of functioning as an organization for this new type of volunteers. Next, please. Also, finding succession for management teams is often difficult. Most of the management teams are quite old and don't get a lot of rejuvenation. Probably also partly because of this new volunteer model. This is also a challenge we have to face. And next, please. Yeah, this is rather a pitfall than a challenge. Expecting too much of the volunteers is a danger, but it's not always difficult for us not always easy for us to spot someone's boundaries, and some tasks just have to get done. And also in nature sector, of course, you all know there's a lot of energy drains. There is bureaucracy, politics, and other counteracting forces. And due to these things, burnouts happen, and also in volunteers. That's something to keep in mind working with volunteers. Next, please. Yeah, I will finish with some recommendations for if you want to involve volunteers in your own organization or projects. So first of all, if you want to attract and keep volunteers, it's important to know why do people volunteer. And the motivations are very different for everyone, but these are the 5 main reasons people give for volunteering. So make sure they can find it in your organization. For instance, if people want to learn, give them the trust in their abilities and give them positive reinforcements. If they want to have fun, make sure it is fun. Make sure they feel well in the group, make time to relax, to do team building. I do the right thing. That's the most common thing in this traditional volunteers I told you about. Also, give sufficient appreciation, and that's something that can give a lot of energy. For example, in my project area, there is a volunteer, is called Vital. And Vital has been buying land for Natuurpunt for about 30 years. And a lot of the nature areas in the region only exist because of him. And he does this because it's the right thing to do. So it's like because of his values. But also he deserves appreciation. And he told us one time that he would like to be put in the spotlights for his work some more. So we dedicated an article in the Natuurpunt magazine to him, and that gave him a lot of energy. And now he's still buying a lot of land for us.
Jef, you are out of time.
Okay, I will finish quickly. Next slide, please. So also focus on personal strengths of the volunteers. People prefer to do what they are good at. I told about Vital, who is good at land acquisition, but there's also another one, is called Mark. He has a lot of knowledge about nature and nature management. He's very important in the management planning, but don't ask him to do the negotiations. Also very important. And the last one is, yes, I cannot say it enough. In our volunteer model, ownership is very important. Volunteers need to have a tight band with the area, need to make the decisions about their area, so they can be proud of their area and proud of what they accomplished in it. That's a very important thing for us. So last slide, I would like to finish with this. Volunteers are no tool for Natuurpunt. Volunteers are the base and the cornerstone of Natuurpunt, because without volunteers, no Natuurpunt. That's a very important thing to remember for us. So thank you very much for attention, and thank you very much to all volunteers.
Thank you, Jef. Thank you for this inspiring presentation and interesting approach. And the tips that you shared. It's definitely clear that the involvement from the planning phase, as well as during previous presentations, here also with involvement in the planning phase plays a crucial role. But then you also mentioned ownership, emphasized that this is an important factor. So do you think that ownership is is what actually drives continuity and ensures availability? Because I guess continuity and availability are the main problems, right, when we talk about volunteers, or among the main problems.
Yeah, exactly. That's the main challenges we face. We don't know yet how big the problem is, because at the time I told you it's mainly older volunteers, and we get some rejuvenation. It's not clear if it's enough. So yeah, it will be a challenge probably. But yeah, I think I think the ownership, the really strong bond with the area, and also being proud of their own area and being able to make the decisions together with us keeps them motivated. If you do it really top down and say, if we say what's going to happen in the area and you as volunteers just carry it out, that's not motivating. So that's for motivation, it's a very important part.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. I'm sure that you will have an opportunity also to share more of your experience and knowledge gained through this work during the discussion session. But now I would like to invite our next speaker, and it is Maja Cipot that is joining me here. And Maja is a dedicated nature conservationist working at the Ministry of Natural Resources and Spatial Planning in Slovenia. She is a project leader of the Slovenian first strategic nature conservation project. Today, Maja will present the approach chosen implementing the national Natura 2000 management program and the importance of engaging stakeholders through strong partnerships and also lessons learned through the process. Maja, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Viktorija. So as you heard, I'm the leader of the Slovenian Life integrated project working on management of Natura. Of course, we're already building on the network done and work done in previous traditional life project, particularly Natura 2000 management project that prepared the previous Natura 2000 management program that we were implementing also, and we prepared a new management program in this our project. Next, please. As many of you know, Slovenia is one of the smallest European countries, covering just over 20,000 square kilometers with a population slightly more than 2 million. Despite its size, Slovenia is one of the EU's most diverse countries and with Natura 2000 covering more than 37% of its land. Next. These sites include 70% of the forest, 70% forests, 20% are agricultural land, and the rest are areas above forestry line, urban areas and freshwater habitats. More than 70% of Slovenian land is privately owned, adding the complexity to the conservation efforts. So when Slovenia joined the EU over 20 years ago, we identified that the best way to manage Natura 2000 is through intersectoral approach, leveraging established mechanism. Next, please. We operate under one common government adopted Natura 2000 management program. So for each of the 355 sites that we have, as well as more than 230 species and 60 habitat types, this program then defines detailed conservation objectives, specific conservation measures. Next, please. Identifies the responsibilities of each sectors and legal entities for implementation of these measures and provides an overview of financial resources. The program integrates Natura 2000 objectives into various sectoral plans, such as forestry, hunting, water management, fisheries, common agricultural policy, spatial development plans through environmental impact assessments, and other strategic plans of EU funds. However, next, please. This regular process is more or less linear with formal communication through guidelines and consents. Next, please. Next, please. So, and nature conservation often remains separated from other sectors. So this creates a limited flexibility and capacity. Next, please. And implementation relies heavily on secured funding. Next, please. So how could we improve regular process? Next, please. Another challenge we encountered was the lack of uniform understanding of the conservation measures. So the terms like properly managed grazing, appropriate forest management for preservation of some habitat types, preservation of hydromorphological features, that were interpreted totally differently by a biologist, a forester, a civil engineer. So these variations posed obstacles to harmonized implementation. Next, please. So our first solution was to build a right partnership. We strengthened the existing collaboration and expanded our team to include 15 partners from 5 sectors. These partners bring diverse expertise from biology, nature conservation, water management, agriculture, forestry, and communication. They include policymakers, public institutions, research organizations, NGOs, and strategic communication partners. Next, please. So we have currently over 120 people working and contributing in the project. Around 30 are fully dedicated, while others balance project responsibilities with other regular roles. This dual involvement enables the transfer of knowledge in and out of our hub, our partnership, fostering replication and expansion of results. Next, please. For the outset, the collaboration has always been the heart and most important approach. No project action or work package is handled by a single partner alone, or instead, responsibility are shared, promoting daily interaction, mutual support. The responsibility of and life IP funds for nature restoration were given in the hands of the sectors doing the work on the field regularly. So Water Agency, Forestry Service, regional institutes of agriculture are now responsible for implementation of these measures, with the rest of the partnership providing the guidance and assistance. Networking, trust building, communication have been crucial. Direct contact among employees from different sectors has encouraged mutual understanding and support throughout the process. We were data-driven and worked on gathering the best possible data for planning and fine-tuning. So on pilot areas, a detailed baseline and analysis for species and habitat types was done, but also sectoral detailed baseline management and situation analysis were done. Some sectors never did that before. The questions like, what kind of farming is there in place in this area? What is the need and potential of farming in the area? What does the comparison of land use over 10 years tell us? What nature conservation statuses in addition to Natura 2000 are there? What necessary measures for improvement of water condition or flood protection were planned or needed? All that knowledge was then used to prepare detailed conservation measures and that they were harmonized and understood by all parties involved. But we included a communication specialist, a facilitator into this process, especially in the first steps, and that proved to be very useful. We had several facilitated workshops for preparation of conservation measure plans. The wider partnership was trained in communication. Common communication strategy was prepared with harmonized key messages because even the word nature wasn't perceived the same among partners. Partners included and supported each other at all key steps. Also, for example, in the preparation of investment documentation for water, the civil engineer was taken to the field, shown on a field in vivo how a habitat in good condition looks like, so they could now then translate that into the necessary measurements and building plans. Communication with owners and farmers and other external stakeholders like municipalities were done coordinately among partners. Since in their eyes, so in the eyes of the farmers, we are one, we are always the state. So if we weren't coordinated, we would seem inconsistent and would lose trust, all of us. So we are of course not perfect and we are still on a learning curve. Next, please. Looking back,
We have
there are
1
several...
minute left.
Oh, thank you. Looking back, there are several lessons that we've learned, but I would emphasize just some of them. Securing the land early, we heard that importance of that in the first session, but work on onboarding and capacity building of people involved, on integration of project results and approaches into regular tasks already during the project, either in policy planning or administrative procedure. Use all available tools, approaches, listen, be open-minded, adapt, test the approaches and tools, and find what is best and it's working for you. Knowledge fosters understanding, and understanding leads to ownership, that we heard is very important by a previous speaker. Remember, people are the system. Together, we are shaping the governance and collective memory that ensures long-term success. Next, please. So this is one of our key messages that found its way also into speaks of some politicians, and they didn't even know where it came from. So it's a testament of the power of persistence. When a message is repeated long enough, it resonates. For me, my team, and all partners, this project has been a transformative learning experience. We are proud to be the part of LIFE community. LIFE community acts as a catalyst for nature restoration and conservation across Europe. Thank you.
Thank you, Maja. Thank you for sharing this enormous work done in building this intersectorial partnership. And you said in such a nice and soft way of that, that nature conservation issues are sometimes or often accepted and interpreted differently by representatives of different sectors. But there's even more than that, right? There are even conflicts sometimes when we come to issues of nature conservation with other sectors. And how do you think can these results that you already achieved by now, although you said that it's still learning process, and how these results of built intersectorial partnership can be sustained in the long run, or maybe even help to upscale the nature restoration?
It's a really wide question. Yeah, mostly working with people. I think that all the investment that you have in communication, explaining, listening the needs, listening the problems, listening why there is a conflict. Not all conflicts are bad. They also show why somebody is really eager to preserve something. So then you see that that's important for them. You have to try to realize why this is important and try to resolve and maybe show a different point of view, that you are not going to, I don't know, change anything else for him, but maybe add something else, So yes, communication is the key, I think, and involving the stakeholders that have the power to change things. So they are like also landowners, farmers, the ones that have the land in their lands. Yeah.
Indeed, Maja. Dialogue is a key to success. So we'll probably talk more during the discussion. And now let me introduce our last speaker of the session, Karin Olsson. Hello, Karin. And Karin is a project manager at County Administration of Board of Skåne in Sweden. She works full-time with LIFE projects, including the LIFE Connects project, the one she will present. The project aiming to restore river ecosystem services in 7 rivers in southern Sweden. Karin will present the benefits of collaboration with key stakeholders by established again strong partnership, and will explain how this partnership contributes to reaching the restoration objectives. Karin, please.
Thank you, Viktorija, for that introduction. And as you said, my name is Karin, and I am actually a project manager for 2 LIFE projects. We reached a new one in September last year, so I will actually go into that a little as well. But I will mostly talk about LIFE Connects, since that has been going on from 2019. So next, please. Just to give you a short introduction to the projects, so you know what I'm talking about when I talk about partners and so on. We are working mostly with the river restorations. In LIFE Connects is only in rivers. In the new one, Improve Aquatic Life, we also work with re-wetting in both forestry and wetlands in agricultural land, but also in the coastal areas. So I will actually talk a little bit about this, how you upscale a LIFE project. And as you can see, LIFE Connects is in a smaller area in the southern parts of Sweden, while Improve Aquatic Life is in the larger part, and also the number of partners has increased as well as the budget. But when I was asked to talk about mobilizing other sectors, I started to think about, well, how do we work with that in our LIFE project? And I come up with the next slide, because I think it's important to see that we work differently with mobilizing in the different phases of a LIFE project. In the application phase, we are out looking for partners to collaborate with in the project that will be beneficiaries. You can have workshop meetings with potential partners outreach activities for the sectors you want to get into the project. And in Life Connects, we have both NGOs like the Swedish Angler Association, as well as a hydropower company. And many of you would think that, well, you can't have these two different sectors in the same project, because the angler, they want to have fish going all the way up in the river system, and the hydropower company, they will dam the river to get the hydropower. So how did we actually manage to get these two together? I will talk a little bit more about that later on here. In the implementation phase then there's more the mobilizing of the more local level, the stakeholders around the river, the landowners, some other NGOs that work more on a local scale. You can have open forums, walks and talks, consultations to mobilize these sectors and these stakeholders to have the common goal and common agreement about the measures you are about to do. And when the project ends, then we come to the afterlife phase, then presenting the result, share your knowledge gained, and the experience and lessons learned will become really important to, for example, get more hydropower companies from the hydropower sector or other sectors be a part of the next project about river restoration or nature restorations. So then you go into mobilizing more sectors or more stakeholders. Next slide, please. But why do we do this? Well, in the Life Connects, I would say by collaborating with the different stakeholders, different partners in the different sectors, we will achieve the goals of more than 20 dam removals, at least 10 fish passages, and more than 100 kilometers restored river habitats, and also reintroduction of mussels that are threatened in Sweden, the freshwater pearl mussel and thick-shelled river mussel, through infestation of at least 2,000 host fishes for the mussel larva. And this, together with a lot of different interest stakeholders and mobilizing people to help out with the implementation of the restoration measures. So next slide, please. So when it comes to the hydropower sector, as you can see in the picture below, we actually took away a hydropower plant in 2020. And it was the hydropower company that did that as partner in the project. And if you saw the movie as well from the project, you could see a before after movie showing how it looks like today. And many of you think, well, why do a hydropower company take away a hydropower plant? Well, this one was the first from the sea, so it was quite close to the sea. And by removing it, we would open up several kilometers of rivers for example, migratory salmon species, which are one of the target species in the project. And we would gain a lot of nature value by doing this. And this power plant was quite old and needed some restoration that would be quite costly for the hydropower company. So when we started a dialogue about this many years ago, they after a while thought, well, we can contribute to removing this. And they became a partner of the project. Because of course, they will not remove all their hydropower plants, because then they don't have a company to run. But they started to look at what are the most nature valuable places where they have their operations, and how can they contribute to give the nature value of doing measures. And I will think that they will be really important in the afterlife phase, showing their experience and the knowledge gained by doing this to other hydropower companies that might do the same later on.
You have 1 minute left, Karin.
Yes, next slide, please. Also, water boards. We have heard a lot of making the local community be a part of it. And in Sweden, we have these water boards where all different sectors, stakeholders are in the same water board discussing what is the most important measure, what is the problems. So these are really important in the implementation phase for us. Next one, please. And to scale up, just why I showed you that we are working with 2. We started out in 2012 with a small project around just one of the mussel species, the thick-shelled river mussel. But when that ended, we realized that to gain more for the mussel, we need to work with connectivity, because that's really a problem for the mussel, that the salmon doesn't come up to where the mussels are. So in Life Connects, we work a lot with the connectivity of the whole catchment area to improve the status, not only for the mussels, but a lot of other species. But we started to think, well, it's not only the connectivity, we have all the other problems in the catchment area. So why don't we work in a larger scale, looking at the whole catchment? What is needed to be done? Like Helena said, we have the Water Framework Directive with the program of measures. What is needed to be done? How can we, in a live project, look at all this? So then we did an application for a catchment scale project, Improve Aquatic Life, that we started last year.
You
so
need
maybe,
to, Karin, you are behind the time.
Yes, I will. So maybe we see a new one in 2031. So a lot of you have said all this, so I will not say it again, because we say that we have to have a dialogue with the relevant stakeholders and listen to them. That's really important in this project. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Karin. Thank you for sharing this experience of cooperation. And still, I'm curious, what do you think was this driver that, that hydropower companies really wanted to become partners in your projects and do good for nature? What's really the benefit, or is it linked somehow to the legal requirements, or maybe some policies, or can you elaborate a little bit on that?
I would say it's a combination, but of course it's the legislation is one of them. We have the Water Framework Directive saying we would achieve good ecological status in the rivers, and connectivity is one of the parameters. So to be able to reach good ecological status, we have to improve the connectivity, and the hydropower plants are barriers. So we have to work with them. But I also think that they realize that they are part of the problem, and they have to look at what can they do. This one was really low in the watershed, so it has a huge impact on nature value. If it would be really up in the system, maybe it's not that important to take away. So they looked at all their different power plants and thought, well, where do we get the most value for nature? Well, was one of them. And since we were working in the river, they thought, well, here we can also get some funding helping us doing something that's good.
Yeah, indeed. So it's as you said, this is a combination, right? Also the EU, the legislation coming from EU, the policies coming from EU, but also the awareness of the sector representatives. Okay, thank you, Karin. I think that now, well, I would like to invite all 5 speakers to join me here, and thank you, all 5 of you. Thank you very much for these interesting presentations, and we learned a lot, we heard a lot, and it is definitely widely recognized that nature loss is deeply interconnected with other sectors. And nature restoration targets, they call for a strong intersectorial cooperation. And at the opening of the event, I don't know, for those who were there or who weren't, at the opening of this event, Mr. Andrea Vettori, the head of Biodiversity and Nature Conservation Unit at DG Environment of the European Commission, emphasized the need for integrated nature restoration planning and linkage with other sectorial policies and strategic plans, as well as building on experience that already exists. And I think that the LIFE projects, they are catalysts for nature restoration. And we heard today the examples that those LIFE projects shared with us, and the previous from other sessions, and the success stories and lessons learned, and the potential for upscaling. So thank you. And now it is time for questions. Excuse me. We have the questions coming on Slido, and our team of moderators behind the scene are managing them. We will try to address all, but if we can't, then we will answer those after the event. We can start with the first one, which will be more general. So I hope all of the speakers can contribute. The question is, what incentives or policies have you found most effective in encouraging collaboration between sectors for restoration? So maybe we can start. Liene, we can start with you.
Yes, this is not an easy question to answer, because in the recent years, most policies have been such that discourage different sectors to engage in nature restoration, because nature restoration, the priority of it is sliding lower and lower. But of course, the LIFE projects, the project that we all know, are one of the tools that have been, and I can see also in other Latvian projects that they have been really effective in bringing together different sectors. One is because it gives a bit of more freedom for the project, for those who initiate the project, to bring together the sectors. Also, the LIFE project requirements are such that we have to do that. So in Latvia, we sometimes say that if it was not for EU, then Latvian nature restoration was in a very bad shape. So yes, from our view, it's what is coming from Europe is making us work better for nature restoration.
Yes, indeed. And yet some policies can sometimes contradict, or Helena, I see you are nodding. Maybe you have something more to add from your perspective. Are there any incentives or policies that encourage or maybe otherwise discourage? That would be also interesting to hear.
Yeah, well, actually, we have both. We have very encouraging policies. For example, the new nature restoration regulation really for covering all these different aspects of nature restoration and addressing directly agriculture, forestry, and also other sectors. this really forces us to collaborate with other sectors and to find good ways for restoration as a whole. So I really think this will be an engine that things go better. But there are also other policies that are really contradictory, as you said, Viktorija. We have the red dry, the Renewable Energy Directive, which says that renewable energy need to be enforced and need to be developed. And in terms of hydropower, this is a huge problem because, I mean, I brought the example of the hydropower company implementing a great measure. This is good, but still hydropower poses a threat to rivers and really makes our life as river ecologists a lot more difficult. And now having the hydropower as an overriding public interest in the authorization processes, it really makes it difficult to come forward with the ecological demands we have. So the European Commission gives us both. It gives us a lot of help in implementing measures and in finding good ways for restoration, and it also gives us strugglers, especially in the case of the red dry.
I think that, you know, this will be another well, challenge or you know, another exercise for the countries to collaborate with the between sectors, across sectors, when drafting the nature restoration plans. But Karin, what is your experience, maybe to continue on the hydropower, renewable energy sector? How is it in Sweden?
Yeah, I can only agree with Helena. It's a challenge for us. And of course, more than 50% of the energy in Sweden comes from hydropower. So it's a really important sector for us. I would say in Sweden we have more than 2,000 hydropower plants, but it's only 200 that produces 95% of the hydropower. So there are more than 1,000 that actually could be removed without actually affecting the production that much. So we have to look at, someone else talked about how do we prioritize, and I think that's what we have to look at. We have to see where can we have really good nature value and where is the value of the hydropower bigger. So we have to do these decisions, but they are really hard, and we need to have collaboration between the sectors and the academia to be able to do these prioritizations.
Yeah, and that's for the planning, definitely for the planning phase, for this, like Helena presented, the strategic planning tool, where they also use certain criteria for prioritization in determining the most hot areas or you know, where to focus. And yes, thank you. And Jef, do you have any from your own perspective, from your own work and experience working with LIFE projects also, and what would be, do you see any incentives or policies that are effective or in opposite, less effective or maybe conflicting in terms of nature restoration?
Well, I don't know about any specific initiatives for like mobilizing volunteers, but actually the EU nature legislation in general is of course very important for us to be able to do our work and to do our volunteer work, because it obliges of course the national government to reach nature goals, and in this way it ensures subsidies for our volunteer organizations to make the volunteer work possible. And as we are a volunteer-driven organization, the government sees in us a cheaper way to reach the goals they have to reach. So that is an advantage for us to be the cheaper way. So in this way, the nature legislation is very important to us. And you can see our local governments trying to find as many exceptions and loopholes to do less nature restoration. It's quite sad actually, but Europe keeping a stiff leg makes sure we can keep protecting the little nature we have left with the help of our volunteers.
Yes, yes, thank you. And Karin, I will just go back to, I remembered what you mentioned, and this is the scale of the problem that exists with the hydropower companies. Have you thought about the ways or means that you could use to actually maybe reach out to other operators so that you could also upscale the results of this particular project that you implement?
Yes, of course, we thought about it, but then we had some new legislation in Sweden. So all hydropower companies in Sweden has to apply for a new permit, a modern permit. So it will actually happen anyway. So that's why we don't have hydropower in our new project, because that will happen with the new legislation in Sweden. But instead, we started to look at other sectors like the forestry and the agriculture sector. So that's why we have the re-wetting and wetlands and climate resilience in the new project.
Okay, so this does come from also for the policies and legislative part that imposes certain requirements, which probably does not necessarily mean that that LIFE projects or any other form of cooperation can't be used to with the sector, between nature and other sectors, to also build the knowledge and awareness about nature issues. Okay, thank you very much. Unless someone wants to add, remember some other initiatives or policies, but if not, we can move to the next question on Slido, which is addressed to GrassLIFE project. Liene, to you. The question, I will read it. Are the landowners also the farmers working the land, or what percentage is worked by contractors?
Yes, in a GrassLIFE project, 90% of the landowners are also the farmers working the land. They are farmers of different specializations. We have cattle growing farmers. We have farmers that focus on pastures, and we have also some conventional farmers that restore semi-natural grasslands as a part of their business model. The couple of the partners who are not the landowners who are not farmers themselves, they are businessmen that work in IT and in finance. They still manage the work on the land themselves, so they do not rent it out, and they just like to spend some time also working with land.
Okay, so it is quite a wide range of different forms of land ownership that you deal with. Okay. Hope that answers the question. If not, you can, or if you need clarification, you can also raise a clarifying question. Okay, now the next question would be to Life Connects and Iris. When you remove dams or riverbanks, how do you make the trade-off between different environmental values like nature conservation and renewable energy generation by hydropower? Helena?
Yeah, it's often difficult, especially when different environmental objectives stand in each other's way. We very often have the problem with river restoration measures that the nature conservation people approach us and say, you cannot do this because you're destroying a habitat of some certain frog or something. This happens a lot. It happens in every project we want to implement. So what then happens mostly that we have to, as river restoration people, have to implement compensation measures somewhere else, so that the overall objective to protect a certain species is not endangered by our measures. So we have to compensate somewhere else and have to implement additional measures to compensate for the damage we are doing to this certain habitat or this certain species. But it's always a very often difficult negotiations. everybody has to achieve its goal, and I totally understand nature conservation when they really want to protect a certain habitat for a certain species, but we say we want to open up the river and have a dynamic river landscape, because it's also an ecological value in itself. So it's always the difference between the dynamic nature protection and the conserving nature protection. But in most cases, we do find ways that everybody is happy then. But it's often not easy. So the conflicts are there, of course.
Of course. And Karin, what about Sweden?
Yes, of course. I would say that the trade-off, you have to look at every place is unique. So you have to look at what are the values there and do the trade-off at every place, because most often when we remove a dam, we see that the nature values are, or nature conservation values are higher than the hydropower production. In some places, we will have that the hydropower production will be more important, but then we have to look at what measures can you do to try to minimize the damage from the hydropower production on the values of nature.
Okay, thank you. I would like to continue, but the time is running, so we have to move to the last remaining questions. And now we have a question: are there any EU initiatives, legislation, or other that have helped to mobilize other sectors? We touched upon this a little bit, but if there's any additional thoughts that you have about specifically EU initiatives that you are familiar with or that have somehow helped in your projects? Anyone? If not, no.
I can just very short.
Okay.
The biodiversity strategy 2030 have a great impact in Sweden, I would say. For example, the goal of 25,000 kilometers of free-flowing rivers. That has been quite useful to say why you have to take away dams and barriers.
That's a good observation. Thank you, Karin. We move to next question, which is addressed to Life Iris. What was the motivation of the wind farm to get involved?
Well, the wind farm wasn't involved in the project, but in the IRIS project, but they implemented a measure that we recommended in our program of measures. And as I already said in my presentation, that implementing river restoration measures from other sectors are mostly not voluntarily. So they were forced to, because they were causing a deterioration due to the built access roads and the deteriorated 3 small rivers. So the authorities obliged them. So if you do that, you are allowed to build this road, but you have to implement the compensation measure somewhere in the area to improve a river stretch. When you deteriorate one, you have to improve them. So they were kind of forced to find a measure like this. And what they did is that they looked in our program of measures and they just picked one and they're going to implement it now. So it was not voluntarily. The motivation of them was an obligation from the authorities, actually. But we are very happy that this measure is going to be implemented now, and we don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, and maybe for the future also there is a possibility to think about the ways of how it can also become a motivation. What means you could use to actually motivate those sectors to work together with you, not only being forced by some obligatory requirements.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Okay, thank you, Helena. Thank you. The next question, we still have a few minutes left. For live Nardus and Limosa speaker, Jef, to you, what type of training have the volunteers received?
Yeah, very good question, because of course they're volunteers and you cannot expect that every volunteer knows everything about the nature management. And that's why we foresee a lot of trainings. There's trainings on nature management techniques. There's on nature management planning, nature policy, nature education, specific species groups, climate, and so on. So a lot of trainings, but volunteers are never obliged to do these trainings. So they don't have to do the training before they can volunteer or anything. But we as professionals can encourage them to take the trainings, but it's really up to them. Yeah, and that's of course where there's also a lot of professionals in the organizations who have had the required education, so we can always redirect the plans and decisions when needed. But we really see that volunteers have very different levels of knowledge, and most of the time they know where they're good at and where they're not. So sometimes they take the trainings. Yeah, so a lot of trainings, but they decide. And nice to know also is that also the trainings are given by volunteers and professionals together. I think that answers the question.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. And now we have the time for the last question. How do you deal with the stakeholders' trade-offs? Well, we touched a little bit upon that with Helena and Karin. So I don't know, Liene, would you try to briefly tell us something from your perspective, your project's perspective?
Yes, it's quite easy to deal with the trade-offs in a grassland context, because if you have a better grassland, then you receive a better payment from EU support system. So for farmers, it's very clear, and so they are very happy to get an expert, and they are asking, will you give us a new level, and will you have you seen this bird that gives us a better payment? For municipalities that we work with also, we show the advantage that if you create an urban meadow, you create a nature-based solution that is required also by urban policies. You create a pleasant place that local people like, and you need to spend less money on management. So, but as I said, it's easy with grasslands, relatively easy. I guess it's harder with waters, and I don't have answer for forests.
Okay. Anyway, thank you, Liene. Thank you for sharing this. And that was the last question. Basically, we are exactly in time, on time with our discussion, although I haven't noticed how it ended. It feels like it has just started, but we used our time. Thank you very much, all of you, all the speakers. And now I would like to pass the floor back to Ben, who will summarize key observations and messages from all the 3 sessions of the event. Ben, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Viktorija, and the session speakers. This was an excellent session, and indeed, as you said, rightly on time. Fantastic the way you've done it. And also to the session before with Jose and speakers. I think we have lots of information, lots of ammunition that we heard to think about and to take into account when we think of upscaling for nature restoration. Talking about the challenges for that, and I must say the challenge now for me is to try and summarize that, as you say. Well, what I've tried to do, I've listened to all the presentations, obviously. I tried to follow all the discussions, made lots of notes, and I tried to summarize that in what I think are 10 recommendations for practitioners, recommendations for perhaps for policy, for life projects, or what have you. So let's see, here we go. The first recommendation, or at least an observation, is that obviously we've presented a very small selection of projects or experiences from projects. As you know, as I mentioned yesterday, the LIFE program covers thousands of projects, and there's many out there that we can learn from. And obviously that means that we haven't covered a number of other subjects. For example, we have not addressed urban ecosystems or mountain ecosystems or what have you. But I can assure you, son, for urban ecosystems, there's plenty other projects by LIFE that cover nature-based solutions in cities, for example. So I invite everyone to consult the LIFE project database. You've seen in the chat the links to projects. That database you can search also for keywords or for partners or for countries, and try to get inspiration from these projects so that you can learn from it and build on it. So that's one. His second recommendation, obviously also the examples that we've seen today and yesterday show that each situation requires their own customization. So for your own situation, customize to the site, to the habitat, to the plot, to the parcel. Sometimes even I heard from when visiting projects to the square meters. You may need to customize your solutions for a specific restoration challenge that you have. And important, what we heard various times in the presentations, is to share these kind of experiences as well in field trips. Take people to the local situation to see why it is that you have to adopt certain very specific measures. A third point from the last session is, I think I would say, cherish your volunteers, but also cherish your allies, the persons that you rely on, build your communities, and help build the capacity of that community by training, offering training, involving them, listening to them, and creating ownership. Because these volunteers, that's a very big workforce that is there in Europe, and I think what Jef said, without volunteers, no restoration. That's definitely a key message to take home. And also, we heard people are the system. So that's it. This LIFE community is indeed a very important community to keep on building on and working with. In terms of upscaling, fourth element is we saw a number of projects, quite a lot of them actually, that built on previous projects. It started years ago, maybe even decades ago, with small scale LIFE projects and gradually built bigger in terms of geographical area, in terms of partners, in terms of subject covered. And that continuity is also very important for the upscaling. We saw examples from IPs, integrated projects, the current program SNAPS. I think yesterday I said STRAPS, but it's of course SNAPS, the strategic nature projects. So very large scale, national level, or at least regional scale level strategic projects. So there the recommendation is also to make that the connection between very local activities of individual small projects and the integrated projects to again share your knowledge. A fifth element that I picked up is, well, also very obvious from many presentations and from the opening talk by Andrea Vettori. The nature restoration regulation is not only there for nature. Clearly, the intrinsic value is highly important, but we've seen the connection with other sectors, the importance of restoring nature for other sectors and for other actors, for other policies as well. So there also the invitation to everyone, let these sectors know. Let them know what you're doing, let them know about your results, engage them, try to identify these common goals, is what we heard. Again, create understanding and ownership and build partnerships, because that's how you jointly can develop. Science was not often mentioned, but also that's an important partnership to liaise with. Then more specifically, a sixth point, I think it's very closely related to the previous point, is don't be shy in engaging with the private sector. For many nature conservationists, that might be kind of a zone not to enter into, but actually certainly now also with the current Commission focus on competitiveness and innovation, it's important to engage with the private sector and to we've seen the example, for example, the building of the specific machine, but also in the UK with the peatland codes. So mobilize financial sector or private sector to engage in your project and engage in this nature restoration. Then on land purchase, a big theme, access to land purchase, a very touchy thing, and not only land purchase, but also management agreements. And we heard management agreements may often be much larger scale than land purchase. Is essential for nature restoration, essential for upscaling restoration, but not an easy task to do. We need dedicated staff, was an advice, people who are really dedicated to work on the purchase of land. For example, also volunteers, we heard an example. Again, build a relationship. It requires time. Time was a term mentioned a number of times. Time already well before you start even a LIFE project. Build a relationship and build on the history of people who know the area, who have been working in the area for generations, perhaps who have a very close tie to it. So that is a very important component when trying to access land and do things on land which may not have been done before, but where you might find your allies. So drink a lot of tea or coffee or whatever your cultural practice is to work with these groups. Then we come to an 8th point, communication. Communication is a very important point. Again, very much linked to what I said before, and then liaising with people. Communication, very important in terms of think of your end users, think of your allies, think also of your enemies. What language do they use? What are their values? What are their habits and cultures? And try to find a way to communicate with each other to find a common ground in that respect. Find a way to co-create restoration measures and to create ownership. Find a way to transfer your knowledge. What you know might be completely alien or different for what other parties know, and might help them a lot as well in their own targets and goals. You may need specific skills, specific people to do that, facilitators we heard, knowledge brokers perhaps, people who are very skilled in translating often very expert knowledge into other language, other actors' way of thinking. Then the 9th observation, we heard about the LIFE community, and obviously the link to the nature restoration regulation. I think it's an open door, but it's clear that the LIFE community and the LIFE program is a key asset to the nature restoration regulation, already contributing a lot to most of its components in its targets. That can still be strengthened by liaising very closely. Many of you do that. We heard in the examples for projects that are doing restoration. It's very important that you liaise with your national counterparts, your national authorities, your national contact points for LIFE, for example, as well. Those who are actually now writing up the national nature restoration plans, let them know your experiences, your challenges, what you're faced with, how you can resolve them, what you need, because that's the future for the nature restoration and the future of the LIFE program as well in itself. So in that respect, a last recommendation, an obvious one, is there is no LIFE without projects. The LIFE program is there. There's new LIFE programs being developed in the future. So I invite everyone who is not already considering it to submit a proposal for the new call. There is a new call out recently published, so it's coming up in the next few months, and there will be online information days on the calls on 13 to 15 May. So join that as well to learn how to write an excellent proposal. And for the longer term, I would also invite you to look at the current EU consultation on the multi-annual financial framework, because also that defines how the LIFE program will look like into the future. Now the Commission, obviously, as you know, is kind of setting its strategic lines for where the money would go. Let your voice be heard and say that environment and nature is a very important component in there. That is my perspective on the last 2 days. Thanks again to all the speakers, to all the participants who were joining us for these 2 days, and thanks for my colleagues in the back, Edouard and Angelica and Madalena doing the moderation from CINEA and DG Environment. Oksana and Camille on the technical support, and obviously Viktorija and Jose for doing an excellent job in moderating this event. So thanks again for making this happen. That leaves me with introducing you to Angelika Rubin. She's Policy Officer at DG Environment on the Biodiversity and Nature Conservation Unit, responsible for the nature restoration regulation. And I would like to invite her to say the last few words on that. So thanks again.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Thanks for these very good recommendations. As this insightful meeting draws to a close, on behalf of the European Commission and on behalf of my boss, Andrea Vettori, I also want to thank you. First of all the many projects that were willing to share their experience with us. Of course, you all, our numerous participants, for your time and interest, and of course, the organizers in CINEA and the contractors, in particular ELMEN, for having organized and moderated this event without any obvious hiccup. So the last days were focused on a few key challenges in upscaling restoration. And the LIFE projects we heard, they have demonstrated that these challenges can be overcome and that restoration is actually working. And the great thing is everybody can go out and can have a look at these successes and also at these challenges, so we can all learn from it. Let me just share a few thoughts to what is coming next. We are right now at a crucial moment. We have this new legislation in place, the Nature Restoration Regulation, and it requires now restoration where needed. It gives lots of flexibility to member states, but it has also clear targets. So I would say let's all look at this as a big window of opportunity. Implementation of this regulation has already started. Only 10 days ago, member states and the Commission agreed on the format for the so-called National Restoration Plan. And it is now absolutely clear what this plan shall include and in what form it shall be delivered. Such planning will be a big task and a complex and an important task for member states. So it is about, first of all, creating a detailed work plan until 2030, but it will also have to look beyond until 2040-50. Several member states have already started to prepare, others are just about doing so. In the Commission, we are convinced that the diverse experience of our down-to-earth LIFE projects should and will be a great help in supporting this planning process. So therefore, my message to all those with experience in restoration is do not hesitate to offer your knowledge, and Ben already mentioned it, do not hesitate to offer your knowledge to the planning process of member states. Find out if and how you can get involved in your country, of course, and make yourself heard. And to all those who are here to learn about the LIFE experiences, do not hesitate to get in touch with the LIFE projects if you want to learn more. We have actually seen a lot of interest in the Slido questions, and we have encouraged quite a few questions that were not shown then publicly to make bilateral contacts with the projects. So obviously also Commission, CINEA and the European Environment Agency in Copenhagen, we will be very active over the next months and probably years to undertake other supportive actions in terms of producing guidance, training, organizing more meetings. And for example, just a few days ago, the online reference portal for the nature restoration law went online. It already includes some supportive material. More will be coming. And there we will actually also publish the recording of our meeting today. So let's continue together to learn from experience, to build on what works and push restoration forward. That's all for today. Thank you for your time, for your interest. Have a good end of the week and a great weekend. And goodbye from Brussels.